Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox, and I'd like to welcome you to the Daily Compliance News. The Daily Compliance News is an offering of the Compliance Podcast Network. February 15th, 2019, the Coming Home edition. First up, a story in the English Arabiya, I'm sure I butchered that, nevertheless, Arabiya economy website, where IMF head Christine Lagarde said that corruption matters macroeconomically, but it's not simply that. It's an issue of growth and it's an issue of trust. She said that the IMF has found out when there is more corruption, there is less trust, and there's less revenue generation, and less young people actually believing in the institutions that run their countries. Lagarde estimated the cost of bribery around the world at between $1.5 to $2 trillion. So you're not talking small potatoes here. It's interesting that people are finally beginning to wake up to corruption as really a precursor to terrorism, to violence, and to crime. Next up, in an article from the OCCRP, Petrofac, the oil services provider whose head of global sales admitted last week to making corrupt payments, has now been sued by a group of large U.S. and U.K. pension funds to the tune of $500 million. Shares in the company fell last week upon the notification by the SFO that it had charged the former head of global sales. Petrofac, of course, claims that they knew nothing about this and that the $50 million in bribes paid by the head of global sales was money out of his own pocket. So he must have been very well compensated. Next up, we have a very interesting article from the FCPA Blog by Vera Sharapanova, and she takes a look at the always interesting question of trying to explain unethical behavior. Do we identify simply rogue employees, or she calls them bad apples, or does she take a look at, she does take a look at the decisions in organizations made in teams and the group dynamics that are in play? It's really a fascinating article and something every compliance practitioner needs to read, because certainly this could be an area that could lead to bribery and corruption in your company. And we close today with the Coming Home piece, because Roger Ng, the disgraced and now former managing director from Goldman Sachs, who's alleged to have been involved in the 1MDB bribery scandal, has agreed to waive extradition and will actually return to the United States for trial. It's not clear why he has done this, and he said he intends to enter, or his lawyer said rather, he intends to enter a guilty plea. It could well be that he is cooperating with authorities, and as part of the cooperation deal, he had to agree to come to the United States so that he could plead guilty and then try to move to lessen his sentence. If so, it's going to be very difficult for Goldman Sachs to sustain its position that it was simply rogue employees. This is Tom Fox. If you have any ideas for the Daily Compliance News, please feel free to email me at tfox@tfoxlaw.com. I'd love to hear from you. As you may know, we've had several new offerings on the Compliance Podcast Network. One of those includes Popcorn and Compliance, where Jay Rosen and I take a look at compliance through the lens of movies, both current, contemporary movies, and classic movies. Also premiering in December. And finally, Mary Shirley and Lisa Fine have premiered their new podcast, Great Women on Compliance. I hope you will check that out. It's a great podcast series. We have several other offerings that are in production that will go live hopefully in Q1 of 2019. I hope you will check back to see the offerings on this Compliance Podcast Network.